Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome into Locked On Knicks. Alex Wolf and Gavin Shaw here, and we have a few news items to get into today. The Knicks win their final Summer League game 104-85 over the Atlanta Hawks, including a Knicks draft Twitter favorite. And Gavin, there was also some official press conferences and announcements today to go with all that.
Yeah, Alex, extremely exciting. The Knicks introduced their new backcourt of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier today. Kemba talking about how excited he is to be a Knick. Tibbs throwing in some jokes about his minutes. Evan Fournier throwing out on Twitter that he's down to appear on a Knicks podcast. Maybe it'll be this one. All that and more right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And I think we see Willis coming out. There he comes. Starks within the 5. Ewing for the win. Up left. Now fires it. And he's fouled. Anthony for 3. Goes down. It's good. Infectious.
Welcome in to Locked On Knicks. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. He is Gavin Shaw, play-by-play man, getting back into the swing of things with some high school football coming up and all that. And we are talking about the Knicks Summer League win to finish off their Summer League slate here. Gavin, it was a 104-85 win over the summer Atlanta Hawks, which, well, it won't feel quite as good as the announced game between the Knicks and Hawks on Christmas. If the Knicks could win that game in this upcoming season, it still feels pretty good to beat up on the summer Hawks, even if they were without Jalen Johnson, who's probably their best player. But we got to see Deuce McBride put the clamps on Sharife Cooper. We got to see McBride have yet another fantastic shooting game, along with Quentin Grimes. They both, I think, were the MVPs of this final game. Quickly and Toppin struggled a little bit. Jericho Sims definitely made an impact, but did not score as many points, even if he had easily the coolest oop of his whole summer league, where he got like his whole head above the rim. But what was, I guess all that is to say, where do you want to start with this game? I thought it was a pretty satisfying end to the Summer League slate.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it to Quentin Grimes. I mean, shutting me up. Second straight great game, 26 points in 28 minutes, 6 of 12 from 3, 6 boards, 3 assists. To me, the best thing he did was I was kind of clamoring in the early game saying, like, look, this guy was a 5-star point guard coming out of high school. Why aren't we seeing that ability from him in any capacity? Like, he looked like someone who spent his whole life running off screens, shooting threes, and not really doing much of anything else offensively. And then as these games have come along, and as he's gotten a bigger and bigger role on the ball and built up his confidence, we're seeing that comfort level, and I think we're finally seeing the full extent of his skill set, and why the Knicks were so enamored with him after the workout they had, and why they were comfortable trading back twice to end up with him at 25. I mean, it was obviously it was the 2 threes right at the beginning of the game that got him off to that great start where he had the and one where Sharife Cooper bumped him from behind, missed the free throw. I think it was Sims who got the rebound, and Grimes ends up with a 6-point possession right off the bat. But then again, it was the operating in the pick and roll. Probably my favorite play from him in all of Summer League so far was he called up, this was I think like mid-second quarter, he calls up Jericho Sims for a screen, and I think it was just to get Sims away from the rim, out of the lane. He rejects the screen, speeds into the left side, draws Obi's man, little dump-off pass to Obi for a dunk, and just the manipulation there to say, all right, I need this to open up so I can get that for Obi. Sharife has been probably like learned this entire summer league, all right, I gotta I got to jump over this screen to cover Grimes and ensure that he can't shoot the three around it. By going the other way when you're a three-pointer and when you're a three-point shooter rejecting the screen, that's such a powerful tool in your arsenal because it puts the defender in such a bind because all their momentum is leaning the other direction, trying to fight over that screen. Then all of a sudden you have to chase this dude going the exact opposite direction. So that was really good. He had another pretty nice pass to Jericho on a kind of a soft pick and roll where he tried to throw it over the top. The pass wasn't super accurate, but this is something Ariel Pacheco pointed out on Twitter, and I really agreed with it. It's just good that he's seeing that and he's trying to throw it. And then had another really nice one where he had a pretty little like lefty hezzy, got all the way to the basket. Another jump off for a pick and roll layup, and a couple more threes obviously mixed in. So I thought we got to see the full extent of Arsenal. Plus, he replicated the same move he had last game with a little step back lefty elbow shot that seems to be one of his favorite spots in the court. I got some pushback on Twitter saying that he's not necessarily going to be a mid-range guy in the NBA. I'll rectify that take and say if he can. My concern is more so about him like working someone in kind of like a high post situation and being able to turn around a shot without getting a lot of separation. But he does seem to generate a decent amount of separation on those step backs. So I'm definitely curious to see if that's a move he can pull off in the NBA. But I don't know, Alex. I've left these last few games just feeling a whole lot better about Grimes.
Yeah, I have too. And that was interesting. You said that he came out of high school being classified as a point guard.
Yeah, he was a point guard. That's what it was when he committed to Kansas.
That's interesting. I never knew that about him, to be honest. I didn't know that was like his official position because I agree. I think that he looks more like a wing that, you know, can do a little bit with the ball. But that actually makes me, that kind of changes my valuation of him a little bit. I guess in the sense that like maybe there is more there that if he keeps getting pushed to kind of, you know, unleash it here, that we might see even more of the ball handling from him and the ability to generate offense for others and that sort of thing. There was just so many good possessions from him in this game. I think, you know, I think that personal 9-0 run to start the game obviously was amazing. The variety of shots that he took during that too was a little eye-opening, where first he shoots one from way behind the arc, probably like a solid 3-4 feet behind the top of the arc, which is kind of surprising, honestly, because like it seemed like he was struggling even just from the edge of the three-point line to get the proper distance on his shots as soon as, you know, the first and second game of Summer League. And now at the end he seems to have found the range enough that he can step all the way back to, you know, 3-4 feet behind the line and just can a three like that is pretty impressive. Then the second one, obviously he gets the end one and, you know, works the contact there a little bit. It was kind of Quickly-esque, but got it off, I think, cleaner than Quickly did on a lot of his three attempts like that. Like it was less a chuck and more of a shot where he just absorbed some contact and was able to, you know, smartly lean his way in and still get off a clean shot, which I think has to do a lot with his release. And then the third one, off the offensive rebound, he took just this awesome, like, it was a move that we saw Quickly bust out earlier in the Summer League, and now we just saw him bust out as well, where it was almost like the Harden-esque double step back, where he sort of took the one shuffle and then the second one to make sure that he got behind the three-point line and just opened up for another three from there. So, yeah, I've loved everything I've seen from him these last couple games, and I think, you know, I was also watching, in particular, his mid-range attempts in this game, too, after we were talking about that in the last show. I wanted to kind of keep an eye on, like, see how he does on pull-ups, and I still stand by it. I think he's going to be all right there. You know, I think that he just needs to do enough to keep teams honest, you know, to keep teams defending him and, you know, not taking that shot lightly. And I think that he's got the right form and a good enough release for that to make that happen, because like I noted on the last show, like he not too much of his release happens in the like below his head. You know, most of his gather and his release happens at his head or above, and I think that should make it okay, even if it's not the quickest release ever, like Deuce McBride has, for example. It still is it's high enough up and he's tall enough that outside of like a center closing on him very quickly, I can't really see that being a huge issue as far as him being able to get that shot off. But yeah, it's been really cool. I mean, I love the playmaking from him. Now that you say that he came out of high school as a point guard, it suddenly makes a little more sense.
I'll throw out real quickly. I looked it up. They have most of this as a combo guard, but in my mind, I saw point guard. But yeah,
well, either way,
I mean, some of that to his game. Anyways.
Yeah, even with combo guard, I think of him more like a forward. You know what I mean, like a wing. So to hear that he was classified more like that is interesting, and it makes me think that there definitely is more to his playmaking. And I think that it was just kind of a matter of he wanted to get the shot right first in those first few games, and when it wasn't coming along, that was pretty much all he was trying to do, was just get the shot right. But once that shot came around, it seems like he and the coaching staff for the Knicks summer league said, okay, go for it. You can handle the ball some more. Like, he was bringing the ball up the floor a number of times, and it seemed by design like Quickly would be right there, and they would inbound it to Grimes anyway, and Quickly would just kind of go down and start getting in position because it seemed like that was the look they really wanted to get out there. So I'm really intrigued and hopeful about what's going on with him going forward here. And actually, it started. I was getting so excited, I started perspiring, like Gavin. But I don't like perspiring that much. So do you have any suggestions for something that I could potentially use to not get all heated when Grimes starts heating up on the basketball court?
Oh wow, Alex! I've had similar issues in the past. So there is one place that I go to when I'm dealing with a little excess sweat, and that is our guys at Sweatblock. Hey guys, there are a few things in life that aren't fun to talk about. One of them is excessive sweating. When you're sweating through your shirts for no reason, it's sort of embarrassing, right? Some of you may know that I personally have dealt with this, probably only from the last time I mentioned it when reading this ad, which was yesterday. But I've definitely had issues with this in the past. I remember in college all the time when I would go out to do broadcasts. I went to school in Arizona, and sometimes I would call things such as tennis matches, and they would be outside, and it would be 105 degrees. I would be in a shirt and a tie, because that is what you wear when you're on camera. And I would be, my pits would just be soaked. And there wasn't really a whole lot I could do about it. I could throw on as much deodorant as I want in the world, but inevitably it was too hot. The shirt I was wearing was too heavy. I was too nervous about the broadcast. It was going to happen. This isn't life and death. There are worse problems in the world. Let's be honest. In the moment, it sort of feels like a big deal. Nobody likes to pit out during a big broadcast, important speech, interview, first date, whatever. And that's why I use Sweatblock antiperspirant wipes. Sweatblock is stronger and more effective than most clinical antiperspirants. You simply apply it at night before bedtime, go to bed. The next morning you wake up, wash, and go about your day without worrying about sweat, guaranteed. I know this will sound too good to be true, but I literally only have to use Sweatblock once or twice a week, and it keeps me dry the whole time. No more pitting out. No more picking my shirts based on which one will hide sweat better. If you or someone you love is dealing with this, you have to check out Sweatblock. Get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com with promo code LOCKEDON or at Amazon and CVS. This episode is also brought to you by Indeed. If you get a job from Indeed, maybe you want to use Sweatblock on that interview. But anyways, general managers ask questions to find the right players, like, do they have ice in their veins? It's true for a lot of Knicks. A lot of different Knicks have ice in their veins. When you're hiring, you can use Indeed assessments to help make sure you find candidates with the skills you need. When hiring gets hard, you need Indeed, the job site that makes hiring incredibly simple. Just attract, interview, and hire. In fact, with Indeed, you can do all your hiring in one place, even interview. Don't just hope for your perfect candidate will find you. Indeed's hiring tools help you cut through the noise to hire faster and smarter. In fact, Indeed Instant Match provides a list of quality candidates whose resumes are on Indeed the moment you post a sponsored job. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. Join more than 3 billion businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit. Wow, that's a lot. To upgrade your job, post at Indeed.com/locked. That's right, a $75 job credit at Indeed.com/locked. Indeed.com/locked. Offer valid through September 30th. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Alex, we are back on Locked On Knicks. We covered Quentin Grimes. Let's get into his backcourt mate, Miles McBride. A spectacular finish to Summer League for him, where he absolutely tortured Sharife Cooper in this one. Cooper in 20 minutes, 3 for 11 from the field, 6 points, 3 turnovers, just 2 assists. And look, McBride had some help. I think our guy Stacy said this on Twitter, and I very much agreed with it. It felt a little like Tony Kukoc at the '92 Barcelona Olympics with Jordan Scotty chasing around. It seemed like the Knicks had read what I and a lot of other people put out, that we really wanted Sharife Cooper in the draft, and said, no, you don't. You're going to be very happy with Quentin Grimes and Miles McBride. And they're not wrong. I am. A complete lockdown effort. And McBride had the audacity to also go off for 19 points in 27 minutes. Another spectacular night in terms of efficiency. 7 of 10 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3 for him. The pull-up shot continues to look extremely smooth. We're seeing all the athleticism around the basket too, which was not necessarily a question with him, but it was could he translate his defensive athleticism into finishing? He had this beautiful backdoor cut where Cooper got completely lost, and then it absolutely rocked the rim with a one-handed slam to finish the first half. And just another game where he couldn't have looked more comfortable, running point, pulling up. It felt similar, Alex, to what we were saying about IQ early in Summer League, and that was this level seems a little bit below how good he is. And when you're saying that about a rookie, that's usually a very, very good sign.
Yeah, I agree. And, I loved what he did with Sharife, and I agree they definitely, it was a team effort, mostly between him and Grimes, to just destroy Sharife. Now, to be fair, Sharife seemed a little out of sorts, and I don't think it was just the defense. Like, I don't know if I don't know if it's appropriate to say, because I don't think he's 21 years old, but he kind of seemed hungover to me. Like, he was on the bench in the second half, and like almost had like his head between his knees for a minute, and then eventually saw himself back to the locker room and never came back out. And I was thinking to myself, like, he looks like, they're saying the whole first half how he looked a little step slow and didn't seem to be himself and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I guess I could sort of see that. And once he like saw himself out there in the second half, I was like, yeah, I think Channing Frye, who, by the way, Channing Frye I thought was hilarious on this broadcast. He's got like, voice-wise, he sounds kind of like Greg Anthony. Like, I actually got real confused for a little bit, because I kind of thought at first it was Greg Anthony, but then I was like, it sounds like if Greg Anthony took an edible and was just like really, really like out there, just saying every single thing that came to his mind, then realized it was Channing Frye, and he was really funny. I don't know. Gab, before I move forward with Deuce, how did you like Channing Frye and the whole Channing Frye experience?
I saw you tweet about it, and I saw some of the responses, and I was weirdly in the middle, because I generally really, really like Channing Frye. I listen. I not as much recently, but during the Cavs heyday, I used to listen to the Road Trippin' Pod a lot, which was him and Richard Jefferson, which was very, very good. And I find him a compelling figure. Played for my 2 favorite teams, obviously, in the Knicks and the Suns. From a play-by-play guy's perspective, I felt like there could have been a little bit more real analysis there. Or a deeper analysis, because he's a guy who knows basketball extremely well and is really articulate, and you want some amount of focus on the game. So I think there could have been a little bit more of that, and there were like times where I felt he fell back on it, just be like, "Ooh, what a move, hot stuff!" When he could have, like, I don't know, like he is a guy who could go a lot deeper. So if I were producing the broadcast, I would have asked for a little bit more of that from Channing. But I could tell you, as a broadcaster, all I want from my analyst is for him to be funny and down to joke and down to make it enjoyable, because it ultimately is entertainment. So overall, positive on Channing Frye with some caveats. I think he can keep getting better, but I think he could eventually be a great color guy, and that's so preferable to like the super generic, like I don't know, the Chris Webbers of the world. Like he definitely has something unique there.
Yeah, I was in agreement. Like, I think that, not to make this a Channing Frye segment, but I thought that he definitely offered a lot in the way of, like you said, being entertaining. Like, he wasn't stiff at all. And I do agree he needs some self-editing and stuff, but this had to have been, I mean, this week or whatever has to have been like one of his first times doing color commentary, because I can't remember ever seeing him in that role before. I feel like this is kind of his first foray. So as far as first forays go, I mean, the humor was there in spades. He needs to, I agree, he needs to edit a little bit of himself as far as like, let the announcer, let the play-by-play guy do his job as far as being like, oh, and McBride with the jam, rather than just being like, ooh, damn, look at that. Like it was essentially like, it was like if I think Frank Barrett on Twitter responded to me and said this, that it was like sitting with Channing Frye on a couch watching the game with him throughout.
Yeah, for better or worse. Yeah.
For better or worse, yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed his commentary a lot. Anyway, I think he was the one that had kind of noted like, oh, maybe Sharif has a stomach ache, which maybe was like code for is hungover. But at any rate, Sharif didn't totally seem himself. But that doesn't downplay the fact that, I mean, McBride really did make his life hell, and that was it was fun to watch again. It seems like McBride did that to pretty much anybody that he was on during this summer league. None more so than those poor Lakers guys, Mac McClung and is it Austin Reeves? Is that his first name? You said he was like your guy, right?
Yeah. Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves, yeah. So, those guys I think still got it the worst, but Sharif definitely got a dose of deuce in this one, and it was a pleasure to watch, and I'm really, really excited for Deuce's impact in the NBA now, and I think it's going to be pretty hard for him to get kept out of the rotation, because I mean, I know that we've talked for a little bit about it's kind of a myth that Tibbs only prefers guards that play crazy defense or whatever, but the fact that McBride offensively does what Tibbs loves, which is just like having a whole bunch of swagger and not being afraid to find his shot and the ability to create his own shot, the fact that he can do that and play smothering defense, Tibbs will love him on both ends of the ball, and I don't see any scenario where he's not out there playing, at least some minutes in like the second quarter and maybe like the third quarter, during the early shift changes, just to come in there with the second unit and give a little bit of juice on both ends of the ball, and really kind of push the other team, make the other team uncomfortable, make the other team's second unit uncomfortable with like his full court pressing that doesn't seem to sap his energy at all. He can full court press the team on defense and then come right back down on offense and cross someone up and get a three-pointer. It seems like he's in really, really good shape, and I'm sure that's not going to change during the season. He might hit that rookie wall around the 40-game mark or so like everybody does, but I think he's going to provide great impact in the NBA. I think he's going to find minutes as a rookie, even if Tibbs is notoriously a little stingy with giving minutes to rookies. But we got to take our second break here real quick. I will remind everybody that today's show is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models of cars, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you want to endure the pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning about the model of your car, various little details, when you know what parts you need and you just want to get it and get out of there? But then, they look it up on their computer, you get the quote, and it's a huge number because they're selling you the part that's going to make them the most money, and then they tell you they're not going to have it right away, and you're going to have to come back to the store to pick it up once they get it from the warehouse. This, that, and the other. Huge mess, not a lot of fun, cost you a ton of money. You probably should just go to a mechanic rather than going to a chain auto parts store like that. And that's where rockauto.com comes in. It's all right in your pocket, so you don't have to make a trip to a store. You can save time and money You wouldn't want to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts if you could get them for the low prices that Rock Auto is offering. Plus, they deliver it right to your door, not making you make multiple trips out to a brick and mortar store. And it's a family-run business that's been doing this for over 20 years, so they're going to help you find the part that you need at the best price and not charge you any more than they would charge anyone else, unlike those brick and mortar stores that give better rates to mechanics than they do to home mechanics like yourself. So if you want to check out what's available for your car or truck, go to rockauto.com right now, see the selection. And if you decide to pick something up, write Locked On in your How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. And today's show is also brought to you by Built Bar. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There really is something for everyone. And if you talk to Built Bar fans, you know that they're passionate about their favorites. If you listen to this podcast regularly, I probably don't even have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I love the coconut and cookies and cream flavors out of the regular stable of 10 flavors that Built Bar carries. They're my absolute favorite. Coconut reminds me of like a Mounds bar. Cookies and cream is like if you took a Hershey's cookies and cream bar but made it chewy and coated it with chocolate. Just so delicious. They all taste just like candy bars. But they're not going to give you all that fat and sugar and crap like regular candy bars give you, or even like some of those other protein bars give you. You'll get 17 to 18 grams of protein per Built Bar, and calories only ranging from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Can't do any better than that on the market as far as pure amount of protein, mixed with not a lot of calories, not a lot of carbs and sugar, and tasting just like a candy bar. It's like a chewy, tasty nougat delight. It tastes fantastic. So if you want to get some for yourself, go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, Gavin, I think it's time to maybe offer our final takeaways on this game before getting into the other news that came out today. The Kemba Walker signing is official. Evan Fournier signing is official, and it was a sign and trade. Taj Gibson's contract number came out today. It seems like the Knicks are kind of putting the final stamp on all their moves for the offseason here and finishing everything up cap-wise and all that. And but I want to just throw it out there. One thing from this game that really stood out to me, he had a horrific shooting game. 3 of 18 from the floor, 3 of 14 from 3. This is Immanuel Quickley. But he had easily his best pass of the entire summer league, in my opinion. He and Grimes were running in transition. Grimes kind of got ahead of the field a little bit, but barely. It was a really tight window. Quickly had to fit this in amongst like 2, maybe 3 players through just this gorgeous one-arm skip pass in between like 2 or 3 Hawks defenders to find Grimes like a couple feet away from the hoop. He got an easy layup. It was probably, like I said, I think it's probably the best pass I've seen Quickley throw in his career at this point. Maybe he felt a little emboldened to throw it because the Knicks were, I think, up by a good amount at the time. But I don't care what the reasoning was. That was an amazing pass. Probably like the last signature moment for me for Quickley in this, all in all, very impressive summer league for him, where he, the scoring came in fits and spurts, but to average, I think he averaged 7.5 assists per game, something like that. To do that and really show out as a point guard, this is a good ending point for him to do that with 7 assists in this final game in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I genuinely wasn't sure which pass you were going to bring up, whether that one or the Hail Mary one that he threw to Grimes.
Yeah, that was another great one.
That's one of the best. Like, the ball placement is just, it's like Tom Brady-esque, like where he landed it. It was just insane. Like, it was probably, it's like the quintessential thing on a football broadcast where you hear analysts say that was the only spot he could put the ball. It was the only spot where he could put the ball where Grimes was going to catch it and be able to lay it in all in one motion. Picture perfect. And just on the simpler end with IQ, I love the little, like, against the grain, over his head cross court hook passes he was throwing. He had 2 of them in this game, and we've seen them a lot from him in summer league. And it's a pass that you really need to be able to make in the Knicks offense, because when you have a really high level roller, and for the Knicks, I mean they're full of those guys right now. It could be Obi, it could be Mitch, it could be Nerlens. Heck, maybe at some point this year it'll be Jericho Sims. You're going to have that vertical gravity speeding towards the basket, sucking in a defense, and the best way to leverage that as a point guard is if you're going the other way and putting the defense in a bind, saying the defense is getting sucked middle and they're getting sucked towards the right side of the court, where your guard is going. Then the ability to chuck it over your head, full momentum, fully on point, and hit a shooter in his pocket on the opposite wing for a three. That just puts so much stress on a defense, and a lot of people pointed it out. The fact that he can make that pass, and the Knicks now just have all these different guys who could then catch the ball, and with the defense out of position, whether it's Kemba Walker, whether it's Evan Fournier, whether it's Alec Burks, Derrick Rose, you can go on and on and on. They have guys who can catch it and then make a play with the defense being scrambled. It gets me really, really excited for Quickley's minutes next year, and I think they're just going to be able to put defenses in these incredibly tough binds and almost replicate the effect of having a genuine superstar at either point guard or on the wing, just because they have so many guys who, if they're not an A+, they're somewhere between a B to an A- at those kind of passes. Plus,